HIPAA doctor-patient portal. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to be looking at some different examples of a HIPAA doctor-patient portal and where this might apply for your particular business. Could be some of the customizations that you're seeing, some of the concepts and what we'll talk about, and how you might be able to consider this with your upcoming project, or how you might customize and cater your current project or implementation that you have to better suit your end customers. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so the first example we want to show is for a pharmacy type of application. Now, for this particular scenario, you could also kind of see this as a lab type of scenario where someone is going to meet with someone for a lab, or possibly a typical doctor-patient portal, or a healthcare specialist of some kind. Doesn't have to be a doctor necessarily, and being able to kind of interact with the patient. So here we're actually looking at a list of patients for this doctor, and you can see just very simple information here. Now this can be more robust, but in this particular case, this portal is set up to be so simple that it really doesn't distract the end user from their objective. Now then we can go see details about each of the patients, and this is going to include the different medication that's been prescribed, the different medical history information, demographics, and then we can also select different options to be able to kind of manage this particular patient. So that's kind of an interesting thing about this kind of model, is it's just really keeping it all in one place for the doctor, where they can come in and manage this information. Now, the other thing that we'll point out is the doctor has a different kind of set of information for their availability, and they can come in and manage their availability so they can change their schedule and specify when they can take appointments, when they can, receive telehealth requests, this kind of a thing. We also integrate in this particular case with a very robust scheduling application that is going to be able to integrate to a doctor's back office calendar and scheduling system as well. So this information can be manually updatable. It can be something that is dynamically updated as well. So that's a pretty interesting capability. Now, the other big thing about this particular scenario for this platform is you can also see that the doctor has the ability to go in and complete a refill, and essentially complete that process of giving the patient a refill. And so here you can see that kind of walkthrough. So someone's going to be able to make a request, and then here they can look at the details and then actually complete a refill request or a prescription request. Really, the name of the game with doctor-patient interaction with HIPAA is to be able to apply governance. You want to be able to have an opinionated kind of workflow that helps guide both the patient and the doctor. Now, again, it could be a healthcare specialist, doesn't have to be a doctor. But the idea is that if someone is going out to take a blood sample, or if someone needs to complete a lab and they need to go to a particular location, if someone's completing a telehealth appointment or even just a telechat appointment, it's really helpful to send reminders, make sure everyone knows where they need to be, make sure that they prep in advance for the technology if they're doing telehealth or telechat, and make sure that the technology is working. Sometimes it can take 5 to 10 minutes to get something to work if it's the first time someone's using an application. And then also we want to be looking out for just kind of basic notifications, like being able to send a text reminder or being able to send an email reminder that the appointment is coming up. And obviously we want to allow users to specify what their preferences are. But the main goal is that the kind of opinionated track, kind of the default track that everything's going to flow through, it's going to encourage both the patient and the healthcare provider. In this case, we're talking about doctors. It's going to encourage them to interact with each other very productively. Okay, so now let's take a look at another example. This particular example is showing a list of patients that the doctor can connect to. Now, in this case, the patients have invited the doctor to connect with them, and the doctor can either accept or reject that request. So this is a pretty interesting scenario. In this case, this is a Bluetooth application that is reading medical information, transmitting it to a secure mobile application, and then that mobile application is securely transmitting it to a HIPAA dashboard and portal that you're seeing here. Now, in this portal, based on the role, in this case, we're logged in as a doctor, the doctor can actually see different things that the patient cannot. So they can receive invites and accept or reject, and they can also make invitations to patients to join the portal system. Now, once someone is in and they, as a doctor, decide that they are no longer working with that patient, maybe they've, of course, had a conversation, and maybe the patient is working with a different doctor. They do have the ability to remove that member as well. Now, once they have added someone and they can view that patient's information, here you can see essentially a overall dashboard that we have available for the doctors. Now, this really goes in line with the idea of making things as opinionated as possible and trying to make it simple for the doctors. Now, for this particular dashboard, we're quickly showing a visual indicator of high readings, low readings, and basically giving them a heads up that, hey, you may want to dig in and drill into this patient's data. Now, this is really interesting because the data is actually uploading basically in real time as the users upload the results. So the doctor has relatively instantaneous access to this information. We can also provide notifications to the doctor, detailed information to the doctor's staff that have the right authorization to be able to access it, and just generally make this a really nice process for the patient and the doctor to interact and basically provide support. In this case, this is for a glucose meter. And if somebody has really bad diabetes, they're probably going to want to have support to kind of get past that issue. Okay, so now just kind of continuing along, if we drill into one of the patients in particular, this is just a really nice presentation where you can see the different readings and the range that we're expecting them to stay within. The doctor can come in and customize that range. And this is going to impact the notifications. So if they're getting a lot of notifications right out of the gate, then we can just change the level for this patient about what range they should be in with the results. We can then drill in and see averages over a particular time period. We can see kind of a standard day, a trend chart, and a logbook as well. So here we're just kind of showing what it would look like to change the range of where we want that patient to be, and then what we're going to receive a high, low, or variability kind of setting based on, as well as the data sync setting here too. And then finally, you can see that we're also able to drill in as a doctor and look at the type of patients. So in this case, these are type 1 patients, and we can basically set up different views within the system and then label those views and quickly get to those and then filter by patient within those different views. So there's a lot of capability here. This is really something we want you to think about as an example, and think about how you can apply this with your doctor-patient interactions or your healthcare specialist, healthcare provider, etc. What can you do to make it really easy for those providers that are working with patients so that they can really deliver value without having to get kind of caught up in the weeds or complete manual steps or go through a high friction interaction with your site? Okay, finally, we wanted to share another example where the doctor is going to be looking at signature requests. And in this example, they're going to e-sign online after completing a telehealth checkup. Now, you can also think of this as something that might need to occur on site with a tablet application for a lab that someone is conducting, or a blood sample, for example. These are just kind of scenarios, and you're going to want to think about how you can mold them for your particular situation. But in this case, we can see that there are open signature requests, and then we can essentially dig into the details of those open signature requests. In this case, we're taking a look at one of those, and we're just kind of going through the details, and then this is associated to a call that we may have had, a telehealth call, and then we're going to fill out the appropriate fields. So we can essentially specify a diagnostic code. We can go ahead and prescribe with our signature and then set the date. And so this can be much more immersive. For this particular case, keep in mind, we want to keep the number of actions that the doctor has to complete or the pharmacist to as few as possible, while still giving them control and complete self-service. Okay, so here they are. They're going to, let's see if I can actually get to the right screen here. Sorry. So here they are, they're going to select the appropriate code. And then once they select the code, they can add their signature. And then finally, they can complete this form. So basically, the idea is that this whole process with the doctor-patient interaction is going to allow the doctor to really quickly receive a notification. Possibly, they're going to get a kind of accumulation of notifications throughout the day and get a summary at the end of the day, for example. And then they can go in and view any signatures they need to complete and then go ahead and complete those in bulk. It's really up to them as far as their notification preferences and their workflow. But then they can go in, complete those signature requests, and then the prescriptions are all sent off, right? So that's kind of the idea in this case. You can really look at this, again, kind of as a scenario that you could elaborate on, modify, and customize. We've done so many things with Hipaa, allowing doctors and patients to interact. A few notes that I'll also point out is that we've done a lot with mobile applications and tablet applications, including kiosks as well, to really make this an omni-channel experience. What do we mean by that? Basically, the idea is that there's going to be a consistent experience for both the patient and the doctor or healthcare provider throughout the different channels or device types that they work with. So they can work with a mobile app, they can work with a tablet app, a kiosk, a desktop or web application. All of the data is going to be synchronized securely and privately and allow the user to have a seamless and consistent experience throughout their process. Ideally, we want it to, again, be very simple so that the user doesn't have to re-enter any information. And this is why it's also important that we can integrate to back office systems. So this is going to include being able to schedule for the doctor, being able to use an EMR, EHR system, or pharmacy application, and really the list goes on, to be able to pull data in intelligently and be able to push data to those systems so that we can let the existing kind of application know, hey, there's an appointment at this time. Hey, this item is going to be used, so we need to purchase more inventory. Update the patient's record in the EMR system, etc. We really hope that this was helpful. We do a lot with Hipaa, and if you have any questions, we encourage you to take advantage of our complementary discovery, which we will talk about next. Thanks for making it to the end of this video. If you would, we encourage you to consider the opportunity to take advantage of our complementary discovery process. If you're really interested in getting more information about this particular topic, that is a great way to, in a no hassle, kind of low key way, get to interact with experts within this field. And our commitment to you, if you decide to engage our team for a complementary discovery or just a complementary strategy and discussion, is that we will absolutely point you in a positive direction, help you kind of accelerate on your path, even if there's not a good fit for us to directly work together. We have a lot of resources and a lot of experience in this area of focus, and we just encourage you to take advantage of that if you're seriously looking in this space. If there is a good fit, of course, we'll also present you with great options that you can consider for how we might work together. And either way, we certainly appreciate you taking a look at this video. We encourage you, if you think this was valuable, to hit the like button. And if you'd like to see more of these videos, go ahead and hit subscribe. And we will look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.